Welcome to the channel, guys. Today we're going to be checking out why Generation X doesn't want to be a part of the generational war. And this is going to be a great video, highly requested. So I haven't seen this myself, but you guys have been giving me some great requests, so I already know what time it is when it comes on the net. Now, generational war, let's see exactly what war we're talking about here. You know what I'm saying? Let's get the details on it because we love to get educated here. So we're going to be checking out a lot of educational style videos and also different type of videos, sports, music. We do a lot of reactions on the channel. So if you guys want to see any of that, make sure you're spazzing out on that like button and subscribe to the channel. By liking the video, the way the YouTube algorithm works, YouTube will push the video out to more people and you'll be directly helping me to grow. Generation X, they're kind of, I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like they don't want to be a part of it. They take themselves up out of the generational situation and they're kind of over all that. And I could definitely understand why, but we're definitely gonna find out a lot more. And we're definitely gonna if you guys have any comments and if y'all think anything is wrong, if y'all think the video is correct about anything, don't hesitate to drop a comment and let me know what's going on. We want to get educated. We want to stay positive. Let's check this out. I'm not gonna hold you guys any longer. Let's get.
There is a generational war happening right now, and it is extremely loud. In fact, it's the reason why I created this channel. Why are they like that? Boomers versus millennials, Gen Z versus everyone, TikTok versus Facebook, skinny jeans versus wide leg, avocado toast versus the housing market. The arguments are everywhere, they generate enormous amounts of engagement, and approximately every generation is involved in them at high volume.
There's a lot of back and forth between
There's a generation sitting to the side of all of this, watching it unfold, occasionally rolling their eyes, mostly not getting involved. Not because they have nothing to say, not because they don't have opinions, but because they have spent their entire lives being trained by circumstance to regard this kind of noise as largely not worth their time. That generation is Gen X, born between 1965 and 1980, currently aged somewhere between 45 and 61, and by any measurable standard, the most consistently overlooked, least discussed, least complained about, least complained to generation in living memory. A poll went around social media a few years ago asking people to vote on the most ignored generation. The options were Gen Z, Millennials, Baby Boomers, and the silent generation. Gen X wasn't even on the poll. That's about right. My name is Eddie Freeman. Every week on this channel, we look at why...
Well, do y'all feel like that's true, that Gen X is overlooked? Maybe because that laid back outlook towards the situation and not wanting to be a part of it. Maybe that kind of is a reason why they would get overlooked. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing something, spitballing. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. But I'm thinking it's very interesting so far. Right or wrong? Right or wrong, guys? What do you guys think in the comments? Let's jump back into it.
Generations see the world differently, and sometimes why one generation barely shows up to the conversation at all. Why are they like that? Subscribe and you'll get a new one every week.
Okay.
To understand Gen X's relationship with the generational debate, you have to understand what kind of childhood produced them. Gen X grew up as latchkey kids. That term has softened over time into something that sounds almost nostalgic, but the reality behind it was pretty blunt. Divorce rates peaked in the early 1980s, just as the oldest Gen Xers were hitting their teenage years. Both parents working became the new normal. Childcare infrastructure hadn't caught up yet, so an enormous number of Gen X children came home from school to an empty house, let themselves in with the key around their neck, and figured out the afternoon on their own. They made themselves snacks. They did, or didn't do, their homework. They sorted out whatever needed sorting. Nobody was checking on them. Nobody was hovering. The parenting philosophy of the era, to the extent there was one, was roughly, you'll figure it out. And they did. They had to. This wasn't a trauma narrative. For most Gen Xers, it was just Tuesday. You came home, you watched MTV, you made a mixtape, you handled your life. The independence was so total and so early that it stopped feeling like independence and started feeling like just how things work. That early self-sufficiency calcified into something permanent.
Now, I do want to say something real quick. Now, the different type of upbringings is kind of what molds a person into what they become. Now, their upbringing kind of made them the laid back self-sufficient style of people that they are, because like the video said, if this is correct, they said that when they got home, no one was home. Both parents had started working at this point, and that was a big shift from the time of when probably mothers were just staying in the home and fathers were just working. So that was probably a big shift, and these kids had a totally different upbringing than the ones that came before them or the ones that came after them. So them being in the situation to where they coming off of school and they have the keys and they have to do everything and there's never anybody home would make them a self-sufficient, isolated type of person. Not everybody, not in every case, but typically that would make them that laid back, kind of self-sufficient style of person. That's just what I see from what I've seen so far. Let me know what you guys think, but I'll jump back into it.
Time Gen X reached adulthood, they were arguably the least needy generation in American history. Not because of some superior character trait, but because they had been practicing being on their own since they were 10.
That makes a lot of sense, because
then they got to the culture and found it wasn't really for them either. The boomers had owned the cultural conversation since the 1960s. Woodstock, the counterculture, Vietnam, civil rights. Enormous, historic, loudly narrated events that boomers attached their entire identity to. The media was fascinated with boomers. The advertising industry was fascinated with boomers. The political class was boomers. Gen X arrived to find the conversation already
crazy, huh?
There were 77 million boomers taking up most of the oxygen. So Gen X did what it was trained to do.
It was
shrugged, found its own lane, and got on with things. The cultural products Gen X produced reflected exactly this. Slacker, Clerks, Reality Bites, The Breakfast Club, the entire alternative rock movement of the early 90s. All of it was drenched in a particular kind of dry, ironic, low expectation worldview. These were not idealists making art about changing the world. These were people who had watched the idealists of the previous generation make a lot of noise and were deeply skeptical that any of it actually added up to anything. The word whatever as a cultural response to provocation, that was Gen X's contribution to the English language. And it was not accidental.
That was their contribution?
It was a posture developed over years of being told things mattered enormously and quietly deciding they probably didn't. Then came the millennials.
One thing I'll say is that any generation or any different age, and I get the generational war part, I'm starting to understand it a lot more, but any generation will feel different and have a different outlook about different things. You'll see something at 15 and at 30 you'll feel totally different about the same situation. Maybe just experience. I think maybe just the experience makes you understand more, or maybe it could be a lot of elements, just going through different things and growing up, just seeing a lot. There's a lot of valuables to it, but at the end of the day, at different ages, you're gonna feel different about different things. You're gonna want to do different things. You're gonna like different things. And some people at the older ages wanna experience less because they've already experienced more, and some people at younger ages want to experience more because they've experienced less. I guess just that's why it's a disagreeable topic, because it's just different phases in life. Like, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let's jump back into it.
Gen X had barely gotten settled into adulthood when 83 million millennials started entering the workforce, bringing with them a cultural volume that made even the boomers look quiet. Suddenly, everything was about millennials, their expectations, their avocado toast, their student debt, their relationship with participation trophies, their burnout, their therapy, their feelings about their feelings. Gen Xers, who had been waiting their turn, who had quietly watched boomers cling to power through their 50s and 60s while expecting to eventually step into leadership, found themselves getting leapfrogged. The boomers were still there, the millennials were right behind them. And the media, the advertising world, and the cultural conversation had essentially decided to skip straight from one to the other. A Gen X writer summarized this with characteristic precision. We've created all these great websites that now millennials waste their lives on. Built the platform, didn't get the credit. That's a very Gen X experience. By the time Gen Z arrived and the OK Boomer Wars began, Gen X had been through 2 complete cycles of this. They had watched themselves get ignored while one generation ahead and one generation behind fought for the microphone. Their response was, appropriately, not to fight for the microphone.
I mean, there was a lot going on.
The generational war that's currently consuming boomers and millennials and Gen Z is, at its core, a war about who gets to be understood. Boomers want credit for what they built. Millennials want recognition for what they've had to deal with. Gen Z wants someone to acknowledge that the world they're entering is harder than the one previous generations got. All 3 of those are genuine desires for validation. All 3 require a certain degree of public performance. The complaint, the clapback, the viral post, the generational hot.
You know, I just have to stop it real quick. I feel like every point is kind of valid from each different generation, but at the same time, it's just not their experience, so they feel like their experience is more valid than the next. Honestly, everybody has a different type of anecdotal experience, so it's just like, even if you're just a Gen Zer or you're a Gen X, you went through this, so you feel like, hey, this is the most important thing. And if this Gen Z person went through this, they feel like this is the most important thing. I don't feel like any one is less relevant than the other. It's just not their personal experience. So whatever group you grew up into, the experience you went through, you feel like that's the most important. And being skipped over, I just feel like that's kind of messed up, because it happens, but getting their chance to lead was their chance to make things the way they wanted to make it. And if you skip over them, then they never get their chance to lead the next generation into the direction that they wanted to, and someone behind them comes over and just tries to skip, or the last generation just clings to power longer than necessary. I guess it's just human nature in a sense to just want to continue to thrive, continue to go. But at the end of the day, I definitely feel for them. I definitely feel for the Gen X people, because I not wanting to be a part of it could be understood, because it is a lot going on, especially the boomers, that the numbers they had, the number of people, the sheer numbers. I could definitely understand why they had like a huge takeover in their own right, because they just had so many people. But then the other generation coming behind you guys and kind of just taking over in a sense, because they just felt like they were ready for the mantle. It's kind of unfair. Let's jump back into it.
Take. Gen X's entire psychological profile works against that. They don't perform. They are constitutionally allergic to public earnestness. The same culture that produced grunge and irony and whatever is not going to pivot to making TikToks about how they feel overlooked. Complaining loudly about being ignored is the most un-Gen X thing imaginable. If they did it, they'd be embarrassed by themselves. A leadership expert at a conference made a joke that went viral in Gen X circles. She said she had no advice for Gen X for 3 reasons. First, they don't need it. They're the most self-sufficient generation in history. Second, even if she had something to tell them, they wouldn't care. Third, even if they did care, they would never admit it. The fact that that joke went viral among Gen X people rather than annoying them tells you everything. They found it funny. They shared it. And then they went back to not caring. There's one more piece of this that doesn't get discussed much.
They definitely
Gen
like
X
to stay
is currently
isolated
running
from what the
things.
video is saying.
Quietly, without much fanfare, without the generational brand that boomers wore like a badge and that millennials and Gen Z have built their entire internet identities around, Gen X is actually in charge of a lot. Okay. More than half of Fortune 500 CEOs are Gen X. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Satya Nadella, Larry Page, Sergey Brin.
Okay.
The people who built the infrastructure of the digital age and currently run most of it. All Gen X. They also run most of the middle of the economy. They're the managers, the directors, the people who actually execute whatever the boomer bosses decide and translate it for the millennial and Gen Z employees. One workplace expert described Gen X as the bridge generation. They entered a workplace dominated by boomers, adapted to it, then had to turn around and adapt again when millennials flooded in. They've been translating between generations their entire working lives.
Millennials just
they are doing this without making it a whole thing. No manifesto, No hot takes, no TikTok series about what it's like to be Gen X in a multi-generational workplace. Just the work. The irony at the heart of this episode is that Gen X is actually the generation that most people on this channel should probably pay most attention to. They are the bridge. They have working relationships with every generation in the current workforce. They can talk to boomers because they grew up respecting self-sufficiency and not complaining. They can talk to millennials because they understand economic precarity and they helped build the internet culture that shaped millennial life.
Okay.
They can talk to Gen Z because they genuinely don't care about status and hierarchy in the way that makes younger workers nervous. They're the
I just want to say this real quick, that they're really like the middle child, like the middle child that just doesn't care about what like they could understand everybody's situation, but like they're in like the middle of everything, so they want to stay isolated. They're the calm, cool-headed sibling that just like, I don't care about all this fighting stuff. I handle my business and I know how to deal with everybody. Like, each generation handles it differently. That's one thing that this video definitely stands out for me, because it doesn't matter what generation you're in. It seems like Generation X was the one that was really skipped over, and which is not fair in my opinion, but they adapted to that situation. Even if they were skipped over in a sense, like they say, they adapted to whatever was handed their way. Even whenever there was a shift, when millennials came in and just tried to take the mic from them, as they said, they still adjusted to that and still was able to work with any generation, even the latter generation coming after, or even the generations coming after those. Let's jump back into it.
Only generation nobody is fighting with. And the reason nobody is fighting with them is the same reason nobody is fighting about them. They decided a long time ago that the fights weren't worth having. Whether that's wisdom or just very well-practiced indifference is probably the most Gen X question anyone could ask. And if you asked a Gen X person, they'd probably shrug and say, does it matter? Drop it in the comments. If you're Gen X, is the indifference real or is it a posture? And from every other generation, do you actually think about Gen X, or are they genuinely invisible to you? I want to know how accurate this one is.
I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. How accurate is that in the comments? I just think, and I'll be completely honest about my opinion, each generation has a different sense and a different outlook, because in the generational war that they're speaking on, each generation think that they're the dominant or superior, or that their opinion matters more, or that what they're saying is more relevant than the next generation. And honestly, that's where the whole war comes from, even on the social medias, even in other places in the world. It's just, whenever it comes down to it, some generations, they get a little older and they should relinquish power, and maybe they're not ready, and then some generations possibly try to come and take the mantle before they should possibly be doing, like the millennials did to Gen X, as the video was saying. And Gen X was kind of just like, we're laid back, we've been handling this, we're self-sufficient, whatever happens, we can adapt. I think that this was a very interesting and educational video, but let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys think that was correct, or let me know if you guys think that was wrong. If you are in whatever generation you are, I think your experience is valid, and I think whatever comment that you want to make in the comments is also valid. So don't be afraid to comment and let me know what you guys think, and we'll be checking out a lot more educational videos and educational style videos like this. So make sure you let me know what we're checking out next in the comments. You feel me? Like the video. By liking the video, the way the YouTube algorithm works, YouTube will push the video out to more people, and you'll be directly helping me to grow. And we're trying to do great things, so that would be very helpful. And make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. I'm trying to get to hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Each one subscriber counts. So if everybody that watched the video subscribe to the channel, we possibly be at 100,000 subscribers very soon. So do your boy a favor, and we'll be coming back with more of these style of videos. So don't forget to drop something. And if you made it all the way through the video, you're the real MVP. Until next time, I hope you know what it is, and I'm out your dick.